They're cheesy and far-fetched. So why do people love them so much? Large audiences in London are flocking to see the return of kung fu and horror movies. So, of course, we sent Tiffany Gardner out to get this.
Today's horror films are more likely to be dripping with blood than with irony. If you're a fan of horror films, particularly grindhouse films, then you're in for a treat. I sat down with Vagrancy Films owner James Balkowski to find out why he decided to bring grindhouse back to the big screen.
The reason I wanted to bring these grindhouse films on the big screen is because we saw a need of these kind of films that they weren't being shown in the London area. So we thought it'd be nice to rent out a local theater and play these films for fans of these kind of movies. Directors like Quentin Tarantino have made these movies popular again, so we're trying to capitalize on the interest in these movies. Our fan base is pretty much split right down the middle in terms of male and female. We find that most of them are younger, 21 in age, that type of area, and they're usually into kind of punk rock, heavy metal, the goth type of scene seems to be our primary audience. Grindhouse film is a type of movie that would be played in primarily an independent theater to kind of, it was a way for a mom and pop movie theater to show a movie and still make revenue that they couldn't normally play, like they couldn't afford a movie that Warner Brothers or another big studio was showing. So they would play a movie that was made for a low budget but delivered a high amount of action and entertainment value, and they would play that in their cinema instead. Yes, we do have an age restriction for our shows. We do not let anyone in under the age of 18. Some of the movies we played have been a PG-13 range, but due to their pre-show, which involves trailers and contests and prizes and things like that, we find it's best to eliminate the minor market entirely and have 18 only. When we do a screening, we offer prizes before the movie starts, and what that usually involves is via record gift certificate, or we've offered clothing, or we've even had bigger prizes like DVD sets, and some of the studios have even been so kind as to give us prizes as well. And what happens is the people in the audience come up and they usually do a contest, like we've had dance-off, limbo contests, you know, gymnastics, all kinds of things that these fans are willing to do to win these prizes. And it adds another element to the show that you wouldn't normally get at your average movie theater. When you go see a screening, one of our screenings, you'll notice that the audience is not quiet. We encourage loud and rowdy behavior within reason. We don't allow them to do anything, you know, outside of normal rules in movie theater, but they do yell at the screen, they get involved, they freely wander around. There's all kinds of shenanigans sometimes going on in front of the stage and back, and it adds a totally different element to any screenings that I've been to or haven't seen in London ever. So that aspect is very different about it. Our shows are always $10, which is a little bit higher than your average movie, but because these films are extremely rare, we spend a great deal of time and funds to obtain these prints and the permission involved, because a lot of these studios are based overseas or they're no longer in business, so the research involved to locate who needs to be, you know, compensated is time consuming. So we do have to charge a little bit of a premium pricing, but we feel the value of the show that we give is more than fair to justify that price. We were amazed by the turnout, to be honest with you. When we first started doing it, we thought there would be me and my partner Cliff in the theater. So when we did actually, you know, open the doors and they were paying customers, it was a great relief and very exciting for us. So we treat this as very grassroots in that regard. Like all these people are our friends, and we're kind of like this little club. That's how we look at it. You know, so I'm grateful for that.
Today, I'm at Rainbow Cinemas to speak with some of the fans of Vagrancy Films to find out what it is that attracts them to grindhouse horror. Can you tell me what the big attraction is?
I think the whole atmosphere of grindhouse cinema is what attracts people to it, because not only are you getting a classic film that, you know, people may or may not have realized it's very influential to a lot of modern cinema today, but you also get the classic grindhouse atmosphere where there's a lot of people screaming, yelling, tons of giveaways, you know, a lot of stuff you wouldn't expect to see in a theater normally. So, I mean, that attracts, you know, it has to attract somebody. You're not really going to a movie, you're going to an experience.
And can you maybe tell us what grindhouse is for those people that don't know?
Grindhouse was like an underground following in the 1970s and 80s, and it was more or less like people go to the theater to like scream and have a good time and like watch the cheesiest of cheesiest gory movies and just have a great time and just go all out, and that's what we like to encourage here at the Vagrant showings.
Screaming? Like what kind of screaming?
Like, yeah! That kind of screaming.
Behind the door!
At $10 a ticket, it seems a little pricey. Do you think it's worth it?
Oh, it's definitely worth it, because you get to see movies that you don't normally see in theaters because they're different and not many people have seen them. like outside of a theater. So I think it's a good way to see it.
You won't find any fancy special effects, but what you will find is realistic, gut-wrenching horror. To find out more information, contact Vagrancy Films or check out Rainbow Cinemas. For today's Londoner, I'm Tiffany Gardner.
Thanks very much, Tiffany. Well, joining me in studio right now is Cliff McIntyre, and he's one of the people bringing these films back to the city. Thank you so much for being here, Cliff.
It's my pleasure.
This is actually kind of fun. There is a huge underground for all of this as well. I mean, like we said right off the top, a bit cheesy, the horror films a little bit far-fetched. You have a personal passion in this, is that right?
Oh, I'm a total nerd for this stuff. Total. Me and James, who also goes by Gemser, have been fans of these films for years and years and years.
What is it about these films that just gets your blood pumping?
Well, they're just strange films, you know, like the people who are making these films are trying to make something that's not conventional, all right? And I think that was the main attraction to these films initially.
Okay, all right. So then a few years ago, you and James, you decided to what? Make your own films? You decided to collect these films? How did it get from an interest in it a few years ago to what it is today?
Well, it hasn't even been that long. It was only 6 months ago. But about a year ago, me and James decided to have, in his basement, a little film festival with just DVDs and a DVD player and a TV. And we invited all our friends, and only one other person showed up. So me and James are drinking our beers, and we're sitting back, and we're like, nobody's showing up. One guy showed up. I don't even know who he was. And I think we played a couple Jess Franco films, and we looked at each other and said, wouldn't this be great to do this in the theater, even if no one showed up to see these on the big screen?
So, okay, so first of all, how do you get a hold of all of these films? And then the follow-up to that would be, how was it that it came to be Rainbow Cinemas or other cinemas like Rainbow's that would actually rent the space to you?
Oh, those are good questions, Susie. Well, first off, it's damn hard finding these things, and it's all luck. Gemser's going to kill me on that one. I'm sorry, James, but there's luck involved because there's specific films we want, we can't find them, or they cost too much, and we would lose our shirts on it. So it's a combination of luck and affordability and you know, some connections in the industry. And what was the second question?
How is it? Do you approach different theaters and say,
oh,
you know,
the
we want to do
Rainbow, the
this?
Rainbow. Oh,
okay.
I totally want to get into that because Katrina and Jackie, I think those are the two managers there, two fine ladies. I can't believe they actually allow us to do this. And I'm so happy they do. So I just want to send a huge shout out to the Rainbow Theatre in London here and to the ladies that run the place and thank them for allowing us to do this because really, I think they know how much it means to us, and like I said, I just want to thank them.
Well, I want to ask you one more thing. When people are sitting in the theater, the kind of experience that they go through, I think of the classic, I mean, the one film that seems to hold the title for me, and that is Rocky Horror Picture Show, where it's audience participation. Is that the kind of evening that people can expect when they go to one of these very fun and action-packed films?
Oh, well, let me just say that the last screening we had, which was Saturday night at midnight, halfway through the film, someone decided to get naked and run around the theater.
Okay, well, can you see a tone coming on here? We're talking about very impassioned and excited people enjoying these kinds of films. Huge underground, gaining a lot of attention, larger audiences all the time. What are some of the films coming up that people can participate in before we say goodbye?
Oh, we got some great stuff coming up. Our next screening is going to be a Women in Prison classic from 1983. It's called Chained Heat. It stars Linda Blair and also has Sybil Danning in it. This movie is just off the chart. Go ahead.
No, I'm waiting.
It's off
I'm
the chart.
entertained. I don't need to go to one of these films, Cliff. You could just sit here with me all afternoon.
I would love to.
Completely entertained by this.
I would love to sit here all afternoon with you.
I think if somebody checks out the Rainbow Cinemas, will they find a list of all the movies coming up?
No, they won't.
So how do they do that? Do you have a website?
We do have a website.
What's your website?
Vagrancyfilms.com or .ca. I can't remember which of the two, but we also have a MySpace which is Vagrancy Films as well, which I want to give a huge shout out to all our MySpace friends because they've been so supportive to what we're doing. And I love all you guys, and thank you. Also, I want to drop a huge bomb here, a bomb. We're going to the drive-in at the end of the spring, beginning of summer. We're going to rent out the Mustang Drive-In, and we're going to do a triple bill with an opening band, and that opening band is going to be none other than London's Bob Noxious. And that is going to be huge. We got national coverage. The Drive-In channel has even shown interest in it.
Cliff, it sounds really exciting. We've got to go to commercial, so stay with us. We'll be back right after this.